I think piano intensive. Some of my students, or Anthony's students, in-person students also took it. But what was really surprising to me is all of these things. I think I did mention it at one point during the lesson, but something about it is very concentrated. Just about, let's say, how to practice a passage or the chords, or even like dealing with the performance anxiety. I can say tips and here and there throwing things, but we don't really talk about hours about it only, and giving a strategy. So I think that was a lot of it, like because we cover so many elements of a piano in this 3 weeks course. There is something that people forgotten or need a reminder, or never thought of it, never heard it before, or just needed constant reminder too. So I think that served really well, and whatever their weakness was, I felt afterwards that at least they got some solution to try out.
Yeah, I would imagine perhaps the most beneficial aspect of taking the intensive is that as adults, most of us are pretty busy, especially if you still have a full-time job and you're not retired yet. You're fighting for time.
Mhm.
And so what we're hoping is, and regardless whether you have time or not, you want to be efficient with your time. Because whether you have 15 minutes to practice or 3 hours to practice, you really want to get a lot done in that time period. And most of us, when we sit at the piano, if you're not deliberate about the way you practice, we wander. We'll sometimes start from the beginning, and before you know it, you're at the end of the piece. You say, "Oh, let me start from the beginning again." And then before you know it, you're at the end of the piece again. And you don't really get to work on things that you need to get to work on. And so, hopefully, this intensive gives you the methods and the tools to be deliberate and to be efficient in the way you learn. Because music, like Steve said earlier, there are patterns. And if you recognize patterns, you can diagnose problems and you can get to work. But if you don't recognize these patterns or how to overcome challenges, you end up just playing over and over again. And usually, actually, most of you probably know this by now, if you just do the same thing over and over again, all you're doing is you're habit building. And you're not always aware if it's a good habit or bad habit until sometimes it's too late. So our hope is that taking this intensive will give you the tools to overcome difficult parts of music making and to put that into use so that you can be efficient with your time. Because in normal lessons, it's it's challenging for teachers and students to talk about how to practicing to this degree because we're learning how to interpret a piece, how to navigate through a piece, but not necessarily, well, let's apply this practice method to this measure, but a different practice method for the next measure. And this intensive really gets to the bottom of all of that.
Yeah, I think, and also we'll, beginning of our Zoom session today, we'll obviously just dive into a little bit about what is this intensive and what our intention is, but also I will really save some time for some of you already took a piano intensive or retake, intend to retake, to have any general questions on piano as well. I want to actually answer Iman's question about can you have a liberty of joining the Zoom class, especially. We have 3 Zoom classes at the end of each week, which is basically, each day we have videos about 30 minutes worth of a video. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but on average. So at your own pace. We often advise to track your videos on time. Otherwise, in day 3, if you didn't finish of day 1 and 2, it becomes of hour-and-a-half videos, which is very
And
overwhelming.
not only the videos isn't the issue, though
Yeah,
I guess one could sit for 2 hours and watch,
right.
how to practice videos. But the challenge is that each video lesson that we share teaches a different method of practicing. And our hope is that you apply that each day to whatever section you're working on. But if you're trying to cram in, say, 3 days worth of videos in one day, that's like 9 different practice methods in one day. And I'm not sure
Mhm.
that most pianists, I don't think, can absorb that information that quickly. And so even though the video length may not be more than 2 hours, the idea, there are a lot of ideas being shared.
Yeah,
So
but to make a long story short, to answer that question, you can.
yeah.
There were two, I mean,
Mhm.
let's say 10 participants last intensive, and
Mhm.
8 was very active, always there on Zoom class. And then 2, they took their own
Mhm.
liberty, and one of them only showed up one Zoom class
One of
because
them
never,
never showed up,
but
but they
she
watched videos on their own.
on
So,
their own pace.
and so it was, yeah, and it,
Beyond 3 weeks,
right.
because once this you have access, like for example, that when you have day 1, you only have access to the video day 7. You don't have all
Yeah,
the three
we
weeks.
released them
Release them.
33% at a time.
So
So
after the beauty of meeting at the Zoom is not only we digest it together, because like you watch the video on your own and then you're like, oh, what do you think about it? Like, oh yeah, wasn't that interesting? Or you might have a questions, but then literally you practice at the Zoom video on. We jump in your practice room and quietly watch
yeah.
what you do, and then like, Iman, let's try to change their strategy. So literally you are practicing, someone else is watching, which is quite interesting, like experience, I would say. So that's beneficial for you, but if you can't make it, still the video itself is worth it. And I still would hope for everybody to participate in the community boards daily basis.
Yeah,
um,
we learn a lot of information by
each other, from each
from
other
each
too.
other. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But Iman's in a special case where if you did miss a Zoom class, you could probably ask me directly the day after in our actual
No,
lesson.
they walk like they're 2 blocks away,
Yeah,
your
she
house.
lives.
So they can just literally walk
Yeah.
and knock on your
Come
door.
on, Anthony, how do you do this?
You're not a, it's a more unique case
Yeah,
that,
you're a unique case.
but
Yeah.
I would hope that you can go through that in any shape or form, because I can highly recommend all of my students. I wish they could take it, because there's just very condensed version of 20 or 40 years my life of piano, and then your 40 years together. It's not happened just now. It is all collection of our education, our experience of practicing, trying and errors. So it's to combine, it's become very, very powerful source of knowledge and wisdom that we discovered along the way over a long, long period of time. And I think afterwards, a lot of students who took it is like, they are surprised how comprehensive it is. First of all, how they're surprised how intensive it was to digest it for such a short time, and also how lasting it has been since that. Because our voices or our saying is in their psyche now.
Well, once you learn how to practice a certain way, you don't want to walk away from it because if it works, you're going to want to use it.
Yeah.
That's what it comes
Is
down
there
to.
anything to chime in for those of
Actually,
those of who took it? Like,
I before we do that, we were thinking about maybe watching the program trailer, but I have a feeling that all of you have already
yeah,
seen the trailer. Am I right?
yeah, pretty
How,
much.
on how the program works?
Yeah.
Maybe we should explain it
Yeah.
for those that might not know. If you haven't seen it, we did make a trailer that's on our YouTube channel.
Mhm.
But essentially, we have I feel like we should be explaining it to Iman too. But we have 50 plus videos, right? 52 or something like that. And they're short videos. They range between from few minutes to 25 minutes long. And they each cover different aspect of practicing piano and learning repertoire. And in general, you're watching 2 to 3 videos a day. And we expect you to not only watch the video, but we encourage you to apply those methods to your pieces. So at the end of each week, you must have seen probably like 15 to close to 20 videos, something like that. At the end of each week, we meet on Zoom for an hour and a half, close to 2 hours, and we'll check in with each other, but we'll literally break out into separate rooms, not like here where we see multiple screens, but like it'll be just me and Rich, just the two of us, and I will watch how Rich practices and I will give live feedback on on the new methods that he is applying from this past week. And we will do that 3 weeks in a row.
Right. But I think what is unique about it is a hybrid version. We've seen a lot of online courses that you take on your own pace and which works, but 95% or more of people apparently don't finish the courses if it was a free form. But this one you have accountability partners like
Because
us.
we actually check in with you and
Did you
we'll see
watch
what
it?
you're doing.
Did you watch it? Did you apply? Did you
And we'll ask you to do the things that you learned from this
Yeah,
past
so
week.
and you ended up actually watching it, you ended up finishing it, which is very rare on online courses. So the reason is a hybrid is that we also meet in person and we also check in the community board every single
Every
day.
single day.
Um,
And June will mail you a physical workbook and a schedule book. So you'll receive it in the mail and you're going to want to follow every single day. So
right.
it's a lot of information. It is a true intensive. It's not, there's no day where you just get to relax and do nothing. You'll be constantly going for three
So
weeks.
there's several elements you may not know, which is the class project, class project,
Mhm.
which is the, we ask you at the end of the course, we ask you to video, like record a video of maybe a couple of measures or maybe 6 measures of your piece that you're working on, not the performance level, but what are the methods that you apply and explaining beforehand and show us. And on the YouTube you will have the of the piano intensive previous ones, that how they submitted their, I don't know what was the limit, probably 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of
Yeah, so essentially you're choosing challenging sections in your pieces that you're currently working on, and we want you to diagnose what the challenge is and what practice method to overcome it.
right,
Because if you can do that and we can have a discussion about it, our hope is that down the road, you yourself can diagnose what the challenges are and what methods to apply. That you're essentially becoming your own coach, if you will,
right.
right? You're not learning how to interpret, perhaps, but you are learning how to play correctly, and that's is a very important step in learning a piece
And
well.
then if you can teach you to us what you're doing, that means you really digest it. So that's our hope. And again, this is all optional, like you don't have to do any of it. I mean, you
Yeah,
don't even
it's
have to do
it's that's
anything.
right. And like Gian said earlier, we had two students that weren't really
Right.
there, watched videos on their own, but
But yeah, but the level of it, like engagement, the higher that you are, you're getting more out of it. It's more like you invest it more and you gain more. So that's the part of it. Otherwise, we're totally open to whatever level that you can. And for Iman's case, he's always there. I'm around. So it's probably not a big deal. But as the community thing is kind of very special. Um, yeah, and then I also very emphasize on the mental side of it too, and the piano playing, not only like physical technique, but like performance anxiety or even being grateful to actually get to practice it. So like why we're not motivated to practice or all that thing is I think is very, very important because that's how I shape myself around my life. So that's we talk about that too and how to make it fun, how to I think that's the technique part of it, right? Like,
yeah, piano is not only physical. If you've been making music for a long time, you understand that piano is in many ways more mental than physical. If you're psychologically in line with how to learn, how to practice, how to be committed, then you get the results you're looking for. So
yeah,
June covers quite a bit about that.
right. So I think that one last thing before we open for the question, either that's for the intensive or for general, is that I did not know how it would come out before we made it. So Rich, Jennifer, and Clara were the only one who took the number one, the piano intensive, when we launched it last summer. That even though we made it, we didn't know how it is going to be perceived. We just put everything what we could do. But at the end, what I saw is a lot of transformation from people, and also the impact of having two, you and me. Like actually, rather than me always talking about it, it's more like you and I have a conversation, and they get to listen to two pianists talking one topic as if we are in some kind of conservatory and have a piano nurse in a table, but I'm talking about it. And since we don't have that kind of I don't know, like we're not in university anymore, so we don't get to have that level of piano intensive conversation. And then, but I think as a receiver, as a viewer, it's very interesting. So that I thought, oh, I see. I did not know that could be actually more fun in a way, like a diversity of you and then me and or together. So sometimes some videos I talk alone. I teach alone, and a lot
And
of videos
sometimes I'm teaching
teaching
alone,
alone.
but
Some
some videos we're having a conversation
conversation.
and you're listening in on our conversation about that topic.
Right,
And we take turns talking about it. And sometimes we'll disagree and talk about why.
right.
And you'll kind of see where we're coming from.
Yeah, and then you're like, I think one was like, why we are making mistakes, and like, yeah, I've seen this, some of my friends have making all the time. That's a habit, things like that. So, yeah, it becomes very interesting because of that two people, two pianist dynamic, and one person who's also conductor. So it's coming from different background from him, and then me performing a lot and inevitably dealing with a lot of performance anxiety issues and be able to give us some tips about it. So, Iman, did this actually help your question?
Yes, it did. So I think my question was, am I good candidate for the class? And the answer is yes.
Yes. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is we all choose one piece of music that you're gonna focus on during 3 weeks. There are times they actually alternate between two, which is totally fine too. But you have to commit to at least one piece, and we know exactly what you're working on, and you have to actually, as along with it, like we will ask, take a photo of the most challenging part, measure of that piece, and then on the community board, etc. So we are dealing with the same edition. So we ask you to send the PDF file of that particular edition you're looking at it, and we're all looking at it this the same music. And while you're practicing in a Zoom session, we're looking at your score as well. So
So we all get to track each other's progress
that's right.
during the 3-week period.
This would be the same piece I'm learning currently with Anthony at my weekly lessons.
That's right. Yeah.
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 Okay, good.
Yeah. Is there other questions?
Yeah, let's open it up to questions. Any questions about the program, the intensive?
I suppose, yes, I have a question. What would be the most appropriate way of doing some preparation for the course?
That's a good question. I think a lot of excitement.
I don't know that
Oh,
this is not a course that you prepare for, though.
maybe the other
I think
candidate can, the
that-
attendees
I
can.
can answer too.
Yeah,
Clara.
yeah. Aside from choosing a piece that you want to focus on,
Clara also.
probably I should mention before Clara chimes in, I would recommend choosing a piece that has different types of music making since you're going to be focusing on one piece. I would choose a piece that has different types of challenges so that you can apply the different practice methods. If you choose a piece that has one style of playing that's repeated over and over again, you're probably not going to get to try out the different practice methods. So I would choose like a first movement of a sonata or something like a Chopin nocturne. If you want to learn something like that, that could work. Something that has slow passages, fast passages, repeated passages, big jumps, things like that.
No, I think for Steve case, Nacien is great, but that's also very repetitive texture. So if you have that and have a backup music that is different, I'm sure other than list that you're thinking as the next level of it, you maybe have some other that you're currently working on, and you want thinking different style of it, and that as a backup,
So having two pieces?
Yeah, that might
Well,
be.
the list piece is good because it has polyrhythms in it, which the Gnossian doesn't. yeah, so that would add some complexity.
Right.
But what it is those pieces I was looking at are stepping stones for where I want to get to, which is playing
Gotcha.
the Chopin Nocturne. Um, yeah, I
Clara?
Well,
what
Clara
about the
wanted to chime in.
Oh,
stick with the list?
so I think the program materials actually are far beyond my expectation. I mean, they posted all the materials actually online, but also I received the actually hands-on workbook inside the folder, and we actually have the even have a daily action tracker for daily what to do, and there's a practice journal, there's a morning journal, and then on top of that, though, a lot of reminders about the daily message. I think 6 a.m. we received the message and all that. I would say what I needed was I needed actually for Steve. I know we actually are crowded with all the music and everything, but definitely I would make a space for these materials to lay out because it's really a lot of materials to go through. And without the space, I had to create the whole space just to lay things out. So these are the new materials. So it's all provided, and it's a lot, but it's a lot of fun. And I think the biggest benefit for me was that the structure that was provided for me. So it was a lot of fun video materials too. So it is definitely doable, and it provides that flexibility as well.
I don't know how other people took videos when they did it, but a lot of I heard that was the first thing in the morning. So if I don't know, then maybe the structure you have to spare at least a good 30 to 45 minutes a day on average. It may be sometimes more and sometimes less somewhere in your daily life that you didn't have this piano intensive. So maybe something you might have to plan it ahead, like, okay, I'm gonna do before breakfast or after breakfast. I don't know, like Rich or Jennifer, how did you tackle with that?
So I had to carve out like early in the morning. So I like usually get up at 6 a.m. because I have to go to work. And so 2 hours, I kind of spend like 2 hours watching a video and doing things. So, and then by the time it finishes and like 9 o'clock, then I can go to work. So you definitely need some carve out some time, either in the morning or in the evening. I prefer in the morning because everything is kind of fresh.
Rich?
I think I kind of did the same thing, not that I had to go to work because I'm retired, but I tried to do it first thing in the morning. And in the daily journal, the last item is what time am I going to start practicing tomorrow or something along that thing. So I went to bed every night with a thought in my mind that at 8 o'clock I was going to engage in the course or engage in practice. Um, I think the discussion about picking a piece that requires perhaps a lot of different practice styles as opposed to a piece that kind of has one style is a great recommendation. I really didn't think about that, but I think the piece that I chose, which was a Scott Joplin piece, covered a lot of different territory. Um, I think the main thing is, you know, clear your calendar as well as you can so that you have all the time that you want to spend to engage because it does cover a lot. Um, and the in August when I took the course, I don't think I had a lot going on at that time, and that really helped a lot.
I think I remember you always like going for a long walk and then
Yeah.
right, and then go to
Yeah.
practice or watch video afterwards. But I remember also many of you, if you miss a day, you always catch up the next day or at least by the third day, right? Never
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Yeah, I did have to play a little catch up here and there, but where I was in August, got very hot during the day, so I was out at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, going on the long walk, kind of thinking about how I want to plan my day.
Great. Yeah. Any other question or piano related?
I have a one question. Is piano related, not the piano intensive. I'm currently working on duet with one person. He lives really far away from like opposite side of town. So I don't know if anybody tried the Zoom practice together or how that's other than physically meeting. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah,
Uh,
Jennifer, you can you can record yourself playing and you can send it to that person
Mhm.
and have your duet partner record their part and send that to you. And in if you're learning and you're in the beginning stages,
Mhm.
really helpful to send one version that's playing with a metronome so that you both are in agreement of timing and flow, and then one version without metronome ticking in the back so that they play to the natural flow of the music. And then probably you can meet on Zoom if you guys live too far away and listen to each other playing on Zoom with the recording in the background. So Jennifer, you wouldn't be playing when you're listening to your
Oh,
partner,
okay.
but you would be watching and listening to your duet partner playing on Zoom, and your playing is in the background in their piano roll. And then vice versa. Same thing with your duet partner that watches you playing with their recording. That way you can give comments. You can say things like, hey, I notice you're coming in a little behind. I think you're supposed to come in earlier here, or you can talk about balance and things like that. There's no really great way to rehearse if you're not next to each other, because playing alongside a recording and playing with a live person are two different things. But I do think that doing this does prepare you for the times that you do get to meet face to face so that you have done some kind of work.
Yeah, also I would do the same on analyzing the piece in terms of the difficulties where you have to be agreed on the timing of entrance or ending of it. So in the duet is all about the matching, but there is a section that it's not together, you know? So the diagnosis may be at least five different, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E, let's say. These in-between measures probably more likely measured between 2 to 3 are the problematic problem problem B. So then what next time you meet, it's not like, okay, well, let's play through but actually start with the problematic spots first and then go through it, you know, so rather than like, you know, you two have to know, okay, I noticed your primo is really difficult this section. Secondo is not that difficult at all. So then problem on primo, but in the end, analyzing together like that, like, oh yeah, mine is not really difficult, but like, oh, so I'm sorry that you have a lot of notes going on there. But knowing, analyzing together, really understand each other rather than putting a fingers like, why you're so slow there? Because they may have a lot of 16th notes going on and you are just only the quarter note or half note. So I would do what are the really challenging section together, what are the independently very, really challenging sections independently, and then also all about how to start, how to end. That's, I think, only thing you can do in person. So those are really focusing on the what are the together sections that are not challenging first. And then, you know, if you have time, then maybe talk about, you know, this section is really difficult. I promise by next rehearsal, I will get this part up to this tempo, but right now I can't. So it's two different issues. It's not like they don't know how to, it just they're not facilities, technique is not there enough to get that tempo versus you guys are not listening to each other, is not together. You know what I mean? So you have to analyze the problem head on. What is it? And then another part, I don't know if it's possible. My students always like, oh, can you play a primo while I play like my student secondo? And then I play primo and they record me doing primo. And they have a song example of, I don't know that's ideal, but they do that all the time and I allow them. And then sometimes if it's easy enough then I actually record for them too. And maybe if you both have a coach or a teacher,
Yeah.
what is the ideal tempo that we're aiming, or what are the
Mhm.
sections that can you play this particular measure as a teacher and you play that your part, and then so you have some kind of like place to look aim for,
Yeah,
perhaps.
this is why I said earlier to send one version with metronome tempo, because if you send them a metronome tempo that works for you, it lets them know where you currently are with your own part. Because if you're both working individually and one person is able to play a lot faster and then you get together, it can be frustrating to think that, well, I can play this a lot faster, but we can't go any faster, but I played it faster. And if you're a beginner or intermediate level player, it can be challenging to change your tempo upon meeting. If you're used to
Mhm.
playing fast, slowing down might mess you up. If you're used to playing slow, going faster might mess you up. So you have to communicate that as it's happening from day to day. Say, hey, I'm at half note, it goes 46 right now. But by next week, let's aim for half note, it goes 52, something like that. So that you're both sort of moving together rather than moving separately and then meeting and then having it be difficult.
One more thing I want to add it is that, for my students who get to meet leisurely time, they have a lot of time and they can go on for 3 hours duet sessions and have a lunch afterwards or chitty chat for an hour. If you're time crunched, then some of things can be done during the Zoom session, like you record the final run through together. Let's meet Zoom tomorrow and let's listen to or watch this video together and to plan our next session, rather than after final run through, you guys, okay, that was not together. So you can really aim for, let's say, an hour meeting, like approach it like a work meeting. And then we're gonna try to tackle A, B, C, D, E, and we're gonna record by we only have 10 minutes left. So let's do the final run and we're gonna record and we're gonna meet tomorrow or on the Zoom this time. You know what I mean? So because it's a lot of bleeding of time, if you just like, okay, meet up and then have a coffee and cookie and then like run through once and then talk about something else, so maybe approach it a little more like, this is a precious time and that's energy too. If you spend a lot of talking first 40 minutes, and by the time you play duet, run through, and then you're like, okay, can we take a break? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Amin?
I just want to say related what Jennifer asked that question. We had a duet uh, last time that we played, like last month actually. In June, I was actually struggling with that with the first piece. I ran up to a very easy piece. It should be easy piece, but I was kind of struggling till June sent me the record. And June recorded and just sent it to me. It just took me half an hour to figure out, because as soon as I hear the rhythm and the beats, I'm just like, oh, I get it. And so I went home and just kind of practiced it. I was just like, oh, it came up way too easy to me. But I was just kind of struggling to that moment. I think that recording thing, I think was very on second piece too, but second piece was a little bit easier for me. But the first one, the one that I was kind of struggling. So I think the recording thing is really helpful. I agree.
Other thing is, I mean, you're very oral, centered musicians, which means you hear music before your fingers can do it. So two duet pieces you never heard before. So you had, and then you are also
Yeah.
the sight reading. So those two combination, you don't have a sonic picture and you don't really read it efficiently. So like you don't know what you're doing correctly, not together. And then as soon as you heard my recording, oh, you got it. You just like hearing from the sound that you heard rather than watching so you're a very auditory learner, auditory.
Yeah, I mean,
because of the reason,
like
it's like
I agree. So usually that's my preparation, is that when I get a song, when we have a plan to make a song with June, that I try to kind of listen it for every day, hours and hours and hours, so I know what's happening next, because I know what are my weaknesses and I kind of know what my strengths are. So I try to kind of balance it. Not that fact that I'm not trying to work on my weakness. I think my music reading just get way better. But I never heard those pieces before, and I didn't want to be another team player. So I was just like, well, I'll kind of try to kind of figure things out. But I was struggling, even though it was should be, when you play like, sonatas and nocturne and all those things, those pieces should be easier. And I was like, wow, I'm struggling. To the moment that I get it, I start listening. I was like, nah, and I get it when I was in studio, I was working. And when I'm home, it took me for like half an hour. And then I think the following week when I met June, and June said, "Hey, yeah, it's coming together. It's kind of like very nice." I didn't tell her because of the recording, but actually that was because of kind of like a recording part. I think was helped so much. I was like, "Oh, now I know what's really happening."
Yeah, so it's actually a very interesting question, Jennifer, you raised about the duet, but far away, like Rich also mentioned it in the chat that, we can actually utilize this technology to still have fun and, to be able to do duet, even though physically not together. So it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't actually play over Zoom together because the timing's just not there. We don't have that level of
Right.
synchronicity in our internet technology yet. So.
But the recording that my students do all the time is just the audio voice record on the iPhone or something. It's not a fancy recording either. It's just like voice record, and then the efficiency of just audio alone goes a long way too. So for duet, I think sometimes it's better not to have a video, just to simply audio transfer kind of thing. Any other question?
Looks
Yeah, Rich.
like not. Oh.
Rich.
I don't know if we have a hard stop in 1 minute or not. Not, we can do this one offline. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are about remote teaching. I've done some remote teaching, and the challenge is quality of sound challenge with Zoom. Even if you have all the settings right, you just can't hear the same thing through Zoom or remotely that you can when you're sitting next to each other at a piano. Do you do any remote teaching? Do you have any thoughts about remote teaching?
So remote teaching has changed dramatically since pandemic. I never thought I would do any of these things, obviously all of us too. But the remote teaching made it possible for us to be here now. So a lot of concept has evolved and changed, but there's things we can, things we can't. And I think if you really accept that limit, there's still we can. Like our Zoom masterclass, I was actually surprised how well it came out, because we came as a hybrid version. I think the best method that I've seen personally, also a lot of other, even Dr. Ash was doing, was hybrid version where students send their recording of it, and then teacher can review it in a more real sense than the live recording, live playing.
Because Zoom sound is
Yeah, it's
not
more compressed.
the quality isn't as good as making a video file.
So
Yeah.
I would think the best method is that if someone was doing the remote teaching, is that students have to work harder by recording their latest version of it, submit it beforehand, teachers review it or review it together during the live session, and then teach the concept that there's something noticed during the video, and then maybe trying out in a live session, but not based on necessarily what they actually hear in the live, but based on the recording. And then because we heard something from the recorded version, even though it was compressed, it's not the best sound quality, Zoom can transfer into like, okay, you got it. Oh no, you got it. Because maybe it's a timing issue. But the things that's very, very difficult to teach, I find, is technique.
And tone quality.
And tone quality. Because technique, I always like a touch, there's someone's shoulder, and then do you see the weight going down? And immediately by the piano tone, they're like, oh, this person is not weight down technique.
But that sound doesn't transfer over Zoom.
Yeah, it's, even recorded version, it's very hard. But if you're in person right away, just like, oh, this person got it, or this person didn't get it. So
If you have choice between an in-person lesson versus a remote lesson, you take in-person 99.9 times out of
no, the
100,
question should be
personally.
in person, bad teacher.
That's interesting. Well,
And the remote, better.
yeah,
better
well, if you
teacher.
don't have a good teacher, well, then good luck. I don't know what to say.
What
But
would you choose? Let's say mediocre in-person teacher versus really high quality remote teacher.
I mean, if I have to choose, I choose the better teacher, but I would choose neither. I would choose a good teacher in person, personally. But what we're doing isn't a lesson per se, because what we're teaching is different practice methods.
Oh no, but
Right.
Rich's question
Yeah,
was
yeah.
beyond this.
Yeah.
Because he's out
I
of
think
he's always in the middle of the nowhere.
Rich and I talked about this when he was in San Diego. I am not a fan of Zoom lessons personally, because I think there's so much that gets missed out, you know. Though I have seen teachers and students who are set up so well with multi-angle cameras, with
Steve
like,
can teach us.
yeah, Steve is like an expert in this, I could tell. And that's really helpful, but I agree that unless you can make physical contact and show what the sensations are, unless you can hear the nuances of the tone that you're creating, the articulation, it's challenging. We're not, maybe when we're all living on virtual reality and there's sense through computer and sensations, maybe we can have a more realistic piano lesson. But
No, Rich, maybe you can answer yourself. How was it? Because you said the in-person lesson with us was like in 30 years?
yeah, what was it like for you? Because you've
Yeah.
taken a lot of online
Right.
programs, including ours, and then you had an in-person
Oh,
lesson
in-person
with
lesson.
us.
Night and day. Yeah, it was not comparable, really. It's just so much better in person. But I asked around when I got back to Hawaii, and there's nobody to take lessons here from unless you're a beginner. But my solution is winter intensive piano in Hawaii.
That's right. We can all go to Hawaii.
Well,
Oh, yeah, we do have.
for the first time, we were invited to teach piano master class in Oahu.
Oh,
And so
Oh.
in June,
yeah, in June.
we were in Honolulu teaching piano master class.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Maybe
we can
should-
just skip over to Big Island, go to Kona, and do it next time.
Oh,
Yeah,
and don't forget to mention we're having a in-person retreat this year in October.
Oh, yeah. So maybe all of you know already, but it's happening.
Right.
We will confirm the date soon.
But it's
But the
already
in-person
Right.
retreat is happening for Kim and Kim Piano in Santa Barbara, California.
October 2019 through 23rd.
We will confirm. We're 99% sure. Yeah, we're 99% sure. And it's going to be at the nicest
Right.
music campus in the United States. And if you've been to different music schools and festivals around the world and you come here, you'll notice immediately this is
Yeah.
a world-class facility. Every single piano is a Steinway grand piano. And the concert halls are just beautiful.
Yeah, it's
It's called the Music Academy of the West, and this is like the premier music festival in the United States for college to pre-professional level performers. And every summer they have like New York Philharmonic, Boston Symphony as the orchestra in residence. So it's a very serious program. Anyway, they're giving us an opportunity to host our piano intensive there.
yeah.
So we hope to see some of you there in
Yeah,
October.
that would be fun. Like
Yeah.
only 12 people.
Yeah, we're only accepting
Yeah.
12 people.
Yeah.
It's going to be very intimate and very detail oriented.
But in person.
In person.
In
In
person.
really nice place.
In person. That's what
And if you're not familiar with Santa Barbara, this is where a lot of us Californians go for vacation.
Right.
It's maybe the most beautiful town in California. So
yeah, so we're
highly recommend
but
it.
we're gonna planning to make it as an annual thing. So
Yeah, we hope to do it every year. We'll see. We'll see.
so yeah, that's it.
So did you say 19 through 23?
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, that's
Well,
99%. That's
we'll
Sunday through
confirm.
Sunday arrival, Monday through Thursday.
We will confirm very soon, within the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the date that we hold.
Yeah. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah. Because it is in person, it's like a dynamite. Like we're like seeing them, can like touching, So okay.
Any other questions before we say bye?
I have another question. Any news on the next intensive course, 102?
102. She's been waiting for 102 because
we are going to make it. So June has a lot of performances coming up. We're going to be on the road. Starting next week, we'll be in New York, Indiana, and Maine. And so once we're back from that, probably we'll make it this summer, maybe.
that's what I was hoping
Yeah.
to have 102 in August, isn't it?
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. 102
Yeah.
is focused on what?
On other practicing things. Actually, more
technique.
more detail,
technique.
more detailed work on what we've done, along with technique.
Right.
That's the
So
plan.
something that if we missed out or something, on 101, although it's very comprehensive,
Yeah.
I think we didn't get to touch a lot of pedal.
Right.
And then the techniques, even we're gonna do some scales because it will be motivating maybe to do it together. At least it's kind of like a review or cleanup.
Yeah. We'll definitely let you know as we get closer to knowing when the dates are. But we are going to do it. We will make it this
Well, because it's 102 is prerequisite is you have to take 101.
Yeah, it's only going to be people who do 101.
For these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and meeting with us. It was great to see all of you.
Yeah, well, so looking forward to have the piano intensive coming up with Steve and Clara again, and hopefully Iman. I don't know, Iman can make it, but yeah, so.
Yeah. If you come up with any other questions or anything like that, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'd be happy to answer.
And then Steve, we're gonna send a material maybe about mid-January. So you should have it by the end of January. I don't know how the shipping works from here to England, but I'm planning to send it out by the end of January for you.
Oh, that's fantastic, and it's just filled me with enthusiasm for the course. Actually, it just feels like it's going to fill some fairly raggedy holes that I've got in my ability to practice.
Perfect.
So, really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. By the way, Rich, I met your friend yesterday.
Fun.
Dr.
I'm
Chip.
actually have a phone call with him as soon as we finish, but he said, and I quote, absolutely wonderful experience. So
Yeah,
I wish I could have been here. Yeah.
I know, it was wonderful. It's funny that how you're not here, but your friend is here. Small world.
I appreciate that he had that opportunity. He truly does love classical music.
Okay, everybody, let's do the final maybe group shot together.
Should we put our hands up again or just smile?
Just a smile.
Okay, just normal smile, everybody.
1, 2, 3. There
All
you go.
right.
Okay, happy
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.